Welcome to a live edition of the Deep Look podcast. We are here in Burlington, Washington. Charlie Eisenhood, editor of Ultiworld, alongside freshly minted national champion Keith Raynor, live and in person. He's got the medal. He's got the trophy. Let's see that trophy real quick. Let's get that trophy up in here.
This is it. National title right here.
Wow. Awesome stuff. Division III College Nationals wrapping up yesterday afternoon here in Washington. We're about, a little over an hour north of Seattle, and we'll be here all week as we get ready for the D1 College Championships. We'll be previewing that a little bit later in the show. Keith, you must just be on cloud nine right now, huh?
It's been a really wild and emotional 24 hours. A lot of smiling, a lot of high fives, a lot of crying. It's been a real journey, and we had a ton of families here. We have a group of people from the team that are from Seattle, so we had a lot of parent support, and so it made it feel like a really community event and achievement.
It's awesome. Well, we're going to talk some D3 in just a second, but before we get to that, it is time for our trivia question of the week.
All right, folks, our trivia question of the week, a simple one. Who is the first Metro East team to win a national championship? So you could go back in the annals of history, and the team had just had to be in the Metro East at the time when they won, which I believe the Metro East history dates back to 1999. There are some teams that have been in the Metro East at points that have also won a title in another region, but who in the Metro East is the first national champion? Charlie, you want to think about that for a little bit? Any teams that spring to mind for you?
I got so many to choose from, Keith. It's just been a illustrious region filled with champions. I have to admit I know the answer to this one, courtesy of some conversation in the Discord yesterday. It is Wesleyan.
What up?
Winning yesterday, first Metro East champion ever. And how long have we had Metro East?
It's 99, I believe.
99.
Was what was sold.
So over 25 years, first time a Metro East team gets the title. And we've been talking a little bit in the Discord, Keith, about maybe we need to redraw the college regions a little bit. Connecticut back to New England. What do you think? You want to stay in the Metro East?
Bring us whoever. But I feel Metro East pride right now. So I think it was a good weekend in D3 for the Metro East. Maybe it portends well for D1. I certainly know that we have a long history dating back to 1999. Breakmark also has a long history. It's their 20th anniversary this year. They're celebrating doing giveaways every Friday on Instagram, so make sure you're checking them out and applying to the giveaway so you can get some free stuff. They also just made some changes. They heard from many customers that people love the bundles, but sometimes you only need a jersey or a pair of shorts. So they dropped their pricing on their core sublimated items, shorts down to $30, short sleeves to $35, reversibles for the same price. You get the same quality, the same amazing customer service, and they're pumping out orders ASAP right now. So jump on it. They are low in prices to make sure they get everybody who wants that Breakmark gear, the gear they need at the price they can afford. And Breakmark, they're the primary supplier for WUL and PUL, so you can look like the pros too. Check them out at Breakmark on Instagram.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the D3 Nationals. And Wesleyan wins 15-11 over Haverford Bryn Mawr in the women's final yesterday. Keith, you had a couple of there was a tighter game on day one, and then you really took control of this tournament during the bracket. Do you feel like something changed for Wesleyan in that changeover, and that allows you to kind of just roll through bracket play?
I think that was part of it, is that we really focused on being super internal and super bought in. I think we got a little distracted on day one, just with the energy of being here and being the number one seed and having to go through some challenging teams and some other external stuff, and we really honed in on focusing on us. But I also think that our depth played a factor in the fact that we were stronger down the stretch. I think we were able to wear down other teams' top players, and we played very open on the first day, and everybody on the team played in quarters and in semis. So I think that helped keep our legs fresh, and it kept our top end really fresh too. And I think that showed when we went up against other teams.
Saw some great highlights from many of the stars in this game right there. Natalie Sweet catching the game winner, Donovan Award nominee. We saw Zoe Costanza, who won the Donovan Award from Haverford Bryn Mawr. And just an awesome win for this Wesleyan team. Milo Brown, Scout Noble, Keith. I feel like, having watched a bunch of this tournament, you had the top end to match other teams, and you also were able to get a lot of production out of like the role players on your D line in a way that I felt like a lot of other teams were not able to get the same production from.
It felt that way to us too. I mean, we have 10 seniors on the team, so we have a bunch of people who've been to multiple nationals and have years of experience. So I think that helped a lot. It let us stay, where we were going 12, 14, 16 deep pretty frequently, and that helped a lot in giving us the depth that we needed and making sure that Milo Brown and Nat Sweet and Scout were going to be fresh day after day after day. Sophia Canutus-Nadell and Suze Cornell were two players who really stepped up. Suze is a senior and had a tremendous weekend on both defense and offense. And Soph is probably just under-recognized because Scout and Milo take up so much oxygen. Like, they're just such tremendous players. People pay a lot of attention to them. Soph was awesome. I thought she did a great job defensively against Zoe Costanza, who's like a tremendous player. So it was a key part of our game plan to say, like, hey, can we try and neutralize their primary offensive threat? And I think Soph did a great job with that.
Yeah, I thought Soph is the tall volleyball player.
No, that's Suze Cornell.
Suze. Yeah, I was very impressed by her defense, particularly in the final yesterday. And look, backing up, this was a very entertaining D3 Nationals, I thought. The quality of play seems to be rising every single year. As usual, pool play, maybe a little bit more blowouts. But once you get into the bracket, we're starting to see some really high quality games. It's not D1 level ultimate, but I thought, particularly like the semis and the finals, you're starting to feel like you're seeing like really crisp ultimate being played.
I agree. And, it wasn't the easiest conditions either. So I think that the fact that teams were still able to put together strong offensive performances speaks highly of them. And I'm interested to see where the future goes. I mean, we saw some really awesome freshmen over the course of this tournament, including on my own roster. And I think that those players not only raise the level with their individual play, but they really bring their teammates with them. So the future for the division could be really bright, and we could be having a conversation about why D3 took another big step forward over these next few years.
Any other notes that you have about the women's division? I mean, we saw the top teams really show out for the most part.
I mean, it's hard not to talk about Lewis and Clark and what they did. I mean, the 11 seed coming in, they finished third in their pool, and then on Sunday they beat Carleton Eclipse pretty thoroughly. I mean, they were in control of that game throughout, and then they beat a Whitman team that had crushed them at regionals, which just shows such an impressive performance down the stretch for that team. I think by the time we got to them, they were a bit running out of gas in the semifinal. But wow, I never would have expected them to be able to pull off that win over Whitman, let alone the Carleton win in the previous round. So to do it back to back, wow, what a weekend for Lewis and Clark. I know we'll talk more about their men's division team and their success, but the team in the women's division has got to be super proud of the way that they performed in this tournament.
Well, let's talk about that men's team. They go to pre-quarters, and they get blown out by Middlebury in pool play, and then they put together the run of a lifetime through the bracket, including getting a win over Middlebury in the final Universe Point game. Tremendously entertaining. And I think there were the signs that this Lewis and Clark team, senior heavy, Max Zwerin, superstar, had the pieces to maybe make a run, but it didn't feel like that, after regionals and then coming into nationals, getting blown out by Middlebury, who looked so strong all the way up to that final, like they were really going to be able to pull it off. But they did, and an incredible victory, and number one on SportsCenter yesterday, Keith.
And deservedly so. I mean, that the final was deeply entertaining, and that highlight, I think, encapsulated everything. And You take a look at it. Leo Farley on the back line and hits the sign. Everybody's like, he hit his head on the sign. Like, how could he possibly have been in? But uh, just what an athletic play to be able to keep the toes down throughout.
And just in complete crunch time here. It's
Absolutely.
13-13. Observers convene because they saw different stuff. Sam Shapiro makes the call. He says it's good. In real time, it looked OB. I have to be honest. I thought he was out the back. And even in the replay, it wasn't clear. And you're going to see right here, like, this is replay angle, okay? Even there, I'm not sure that it looks in, right?
It really
it looks like it's out. You see the high angle shot here. Still maybe looks like his toes slid past the line, but when you slow it down to frame by frame, Keith, take a look. He manages to lean and keep those toes down, clearly catching it on the good side of the line. The photography also shows it. Great picture from Sam Hodling up on Ulti Photos that shows him good on the score. So a great call from Team Orange, and they would go on to win it on Universe Point. Let's roll the Universe Point tape as well. 2 timeouts. Lewis and Clark took a timeout. Middlebury took a timeout. So it's like 4 minutes before this final point. And ultimately, they just don't have much left. It's high stall. Zwerin goes deep. It's a one-on-one foot race. See you later. Orlando Impus with a dime ball to the end zone, and that was it.
It's heartbreaking to lose, I think, on a stall dime. It's like you feel like you did almost everything you possibly could, and they throw the perfect throw, and you, as a defense, you kind of ask a team, like, hey, can you make the perfect play? And for somebody to actually do it with the national championship on the line, that's tough and incredibly impressive from Lewis and Clark in a game that was really a back and forth battle. Like, Lewis and Clark had the advantage, but they could never put Middlebury away. They were always punching back. And it came down the stretch, just deep game after deep game, like great shot after great shot, teams making plays in the air, a bunch of throws that like felt like they were going to go out the back, and people making plays at the back line. And for it to end this way, like, felt appropriate based on all the prior events.
So sick. What a game. The back and forth. I mean, to go from getting, I think the score in pool play, you have it there, is it 15-8, Keith?
Yeah, it was 15-9.
15-9, Middlebury wins in pool play, and then Lewis and Clark comes back to get the win. Tremendous showing from that Lewis and Clark team.
And Lewis and Clark, like in the women's division, also beating women in their bracket run.
Yes.
A team that beat them at regionals.
Yes.
So I was on women, actually, to advance. I also was on Wesleyan, who knew was in the hardest pool where there were 2 finalists. So I felt bad for NF. Although shout out to NF, they were awesome during our final. The support was super meaningful. And I got to have a moment with them during the final where, like, we scored and I turned, I stayed right next to them and I was like, let's go Wes. And they were going crazy. It was awesome. But NF, good weekend, but tough draw because Middlebury and Lewis and Clark were the class of the division, which doesn't include the team everybody thought was going to win.
Yeah, we got to talk about Davenport. Not only did they lose in semis, they lost soundly, like never really in the game. Middlebury just kind of blew the doors off them, and Davenport had no answers defensively, Keith. They just seemed to let Middlebury's O-line march down the field and get easy buckets on most points. They had a hard time dealing with the pull plays, and, did we over extrapolate from the Wash U win in the wind at Huck Finn? Like, that's what you kind of look back to and you wonder, did we over-index that game to make it seem like they were going to just completely crush everybody at this tournament? Or was Middlebury was ready for the challenge?
Sad to say, but a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I do think that we probably over-indexed on the team's ability to be successful in those conditions, where I think that their deep game really shined, and maybe they didn't have to be as disciplined in some of the other areas of the game. But I also think they seemed like they were a little overcome by the moment in a way that Middlebury wasn't, and weren't able to rise to meet that challenge. And that's a difficult. I think that being the top seed got to them a little bit. I think that all the expectation, all the hype around the team. I know their coach, Melissa Whitmer, is a very experienced, smart coach and really tried to block out the noise, but there's only so much you can do to stop, 18 to 24-year-old from looking at the internet and getting excited about people saying they're going to be good. And so I think that maybe that got a little bit to the team.
I think it had to have. And there's a little bit of hubris there, talking about going D1 before you've even played this tournament. Maybe you want to keep that in the back pocket until after the championship is over. They simply just looked like the worst team. I don't think that there was anything in particular that they could have done from a strategy standpoint. They didn't have the same level of talent on the field as Middlebury in that game. And so, yeah, I mean, I understand Davenport going D1. There's a lot of reasons why they might want to do that for recruiting purposes. They are in a region where it is very realistic that they can go to D1 nationals on a regular basis. But it's a little embarrassing. The Wall Street Journal, the big article out. I don't think it wasn't out last week.
No, we have not talked about this yet.
Look, you can go check it out. They wrote a story about scholarship programs specifically focusing on Oklahoma Christian, but also talking about Davenport and kind of like how the D3 community reacted to that. Mixed feelings about the article. The headline was a little bit sensationalized, I guess. It kind of makes it seem like there was some sort of religious reason to some people's disagreement with like having scholarship programs in D3. But pretty brutal. They updated the article with, I'll just read the end of it because I think it's worth taking a look at the end. I should have had this pulled up. I'm sorry, folks.
We're back in the live show mode. We're like
Yeah,
doing it live next to each other.
This is really happening in real time. The headline was "A Christian College Wanted to Be Great at Ultimate Frisbee and Made Everyone Mad," which, it's just not. The implication of the headline
putting
is
the
that,
emphasis in the wrong area.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think anybody ever has said anything about Oklahoma Christian being a Christian school. Like that has never been a relevant part of the conversation. Anyway, the end of the article. Rivals won't have to worry about Davenport for long. Head coach Mike Zagman, a self-described Frisbee apostle, said the team will compete in Division I next year. We want better competition, he said. Davenport lost in the semifinals. That's
a
tough.
stinger.
That's tough.
To be fair,
talk about a kicker.
To be fair, they basically went unchallenged for most of the time until they played that game. So, like, if your choice, even if you knew that you were going to get a really tough semifinal and theoretically final, would that be worth it? Like, if you had a choice between having a competitive season throughout and then competing at nationals versus dominating and then only getting a good game on the last day of the season, like, I still think you'd probably take the better competition throughout the year. But it's also an easy punchline.
Of course.
And let's be clear, at the Fields, and we probably can touch a little bit on the fact that the semis and finals, we're at the Fields, no stadium, really packed in, old school environment.
It was amazing.
Teams around. But, they were clearly the villains. Like, the sideline was really giving it to them. And that might have gotten to them too. But, I think that this probably can put at least a period on that part of the conversation where people kind of go after them a little bit.
Yeah. Look, they just looked a little bit lost about how to deal. Like, they didn't deal with the force middle that Middlebury was playing very well. They didn't have good defensive systems in place to slow down the Middlebury O-line. I mean, they got some turns, but they were never able to generate any kind of consistent pressure. Some great individual players. I mean, Sammy Roberts, fantastic. But they've got a lot of work to do, especially if they want to compete at a high level in D1. I mean, even if they can get out of the Great Lakes with some consistency, which is not guaranteed. I mean, Michigan is going to be the big dog in that region for the foreseeable future, I think. It's still a big, big step up into the D1 Nationals landscape.
You said Sammy Roberts because you're looking at the article, which is about Oklahoma Christian. But I think you're thinking of Colin Hill.
Yeah, from Davenport. I'm mixing up the games in my head.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and I think Davenport's got plenty to be like proud of. Like, getting to semis is still an achievement, and playing a great program team in Middlebury. You have to kind of like learn from these spots, whether they stay in D3 or D1.
It's like the art of peaking, and I don't think there's anybody who's perfected it. Asterisk Matty Sang, but like the art of peaking is hard, and like especially in college where you're dealing with these young people and all the external things that are involved in their lives, and just like it's hard to be a consistent ultimate player when you're 22 or whatever, let alone get a bunch of them together. So it's a difficult task. Like you could be a team good enough to win and still not do it because you didn't get through those moments in the right way.
Just looking at the YouTube chat real quick. David wants to know: are you rolling it back, or are you one and done as a coach?
Oh, I mean, it's tempting when you get one, you feel really satisfied. No, I forgot which. I think it was Alex Barnett who people are asking UNC like, do you get bored of winning? She's like, are you kidding? Like, you do this once, and you're like, I want it again right away. Like, I want to give this to my like. It is amazing. You never get sick of it, and so we already are like ready to run it back next year. We're losing 10 seniors, but I might as well try and go for 2 for 2, right?
Got to go for it. Some folks say maybe you need a lozenge, Keith.
I mean, look, I feel no regrets about where I used my voice. A lot of yelling, no round, no round, no round, no round over the past 2 days. But I feel very confident I'm going to be back in the place I need to be for D1 Nationals.
All right. Let's see. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we are going to get you ready for Division I college championships. We're going to look at the pools. We're going to talk about our picks. You can enter the game and the Beat Charlie Challenge. We'll tell you more about that on the other side. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Deep Look. National Ultimate Training Camp is coming up again this summer, as always. Keith, tell us more.
Yeah, the National Ultimate Training Camp, which I am a graduate of, and many people who will be competing at the Division I National Championships are as well. And it's not just about Frisbee. They spend hours together in the field. You play hard. You get, go through the work. But then the campers are ready to relax and they still have fun. You get rec hour where you're doing stuff like swimming in the indoor pool. You're playing board games. I know Can Jam and Pitch Nut. Someone tell me about Pitch Nut. Where's the YouTube chat? Like, tell me what's up with Pitch Nut. And of course, people like to take naps. That's a popular activity. And there are still spaces available. There are 2 spots left, just 2 in Session A. There's a few more in B, and then there's openings still in C. But you get to do the camper versus counselor game. One of the highlights of my career, scoring on the counselors. It's one of the best parts of camp. Team night, jersey trading. That's another one of the big ones. So be sure to get in. They still have scholarships available, and they will be out at PBI as well. You can get more info at www.nutsy.net. Go to Nutsy, your ultimate career will thank you.
All righty. It's time to talk D1 College Nationals. Keith, where do you want to start? How about we start with that?
Yeah, let's start with Patrick Stegemeller. Look at the jersey, bro.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Well, what's going on? Pat Stegemeller joining us live on Deep Look. What's up, Pat? Hey, Dana, cut the music, please.
I'm going in on the beat. just coming in with
You're
freestyle.
like we're gonna just ride this
turn
beat for the
turn
next
turn it up in my headphones.
45 minutes.
Just a Celtics diss track for 45 minutes.
Yes, you're walking the Knicks. Who's your jersey?
This is a 2012 Tyson Chandler jersey.
Oh, a great choice.
It's
A great
nice that it's number
choice.
6, so some people think it's a Porzingis jersey, and then I get to educate them.
No way would you dare wear a Porzingis jersey.
No, I mean
Uh,
that dude with a Halliburton jersey got trash thrown at him in the street. I can't imagine what would happen if he actually wore a Tingus Pingus jersey.
well, so much to get to. Want to just mention first, right off the bat, quickly talk about the streaming schedule and the whole streaming plan. We've got Field Pass coming back again this year. We'll be doing 4 games live on Field Pass every round, plus a showcase game. And brand new this year, Pat, you're going to be leading a new Field Pass studio show in between rounds with highlights, analysis, special guests, some fun nonsense. What more can you tell us about this new studio show called Inside Out?
Yeah, I think a big part of the business model these days is to just monopolize 100% of attention and eyeballs all the time. And I think Ultiworld was really losing value by having people go to the bathroom or hydrate. So we wanted to make sure there was just a constant stream of Frisbee information, even between rounds. So myself, some other Ultiworld folks, some cool guests are going to be doing a little pregame, a little postgame. And I think, we're hoping that it's a good mix of getting excited and hyped about the games that are happening, while also being able to present what the vibe is like from being at college nationals, which I think is like one of the true like bucket list Frisbee tournaments to go to every year, because there's so much passion, and it's like, the parents always come fully out for this one. And you've got alums walking around and everywhere. So there's always a cool host of characters, and we're hoping to capture some of that as well.
I I can say, because we're at the exact same fields as we were at for D3, great fields. It's a super compact setup, so you really can almost just see across the entire complex to all the games happening right then. I mean, you were there coaching. What did you think?
Yeah, it will be very good for catching the vibe, because it
Yes.
is having everybody together. It means that like not only are all the exciting games nearby, but when somebody finishes their game, they can like basically just look over in your direction and catch the next game, or they can move to the sidelines. You're like moving amongst each other, so I think it'll be a good environment.
Yeah, pretty pristine fields. Great situation overall. So yeah, we're gonna have one continuous field pass broadcast all day long. So it's gonna start Friday morning. We'll have whole round of games. We'll have Inside Out Studio show host, and then pre the next round, and we're just rolling all day long. So and we'll have our traditional showcase games as well. We'll be covering once again all of the quarterfinals. We will be covering all of the semifinals, and let's take a quick look at the streaming schedule. We are. This is not quite breaking news. If you sleuthed around, you could probably figure out what games are being streamed. But this is hot off the presses, and we kick it off in Friday morning. A couple of small things are wrong about these graphics, so don't the games actually start at 8:30 a.m. USCU had it wrong initially on the scoreboarder. But we kick things off with Santa Cruz versus Georgia in the men's division on the showcase field. I mean, I'm not going to run through all these field pass games, but Pat, you want to pick one from this slate that you're excited for?
Yeah, I mean, I think we made a good call in the showcase game, because I think Santa Cruz is one of the real prove it teams on the men's division this year, where I think there could be some East Coast bias, maybe potentially, who knows? But Santa Cruz is a 7 seed. Like most years, a 7 seed is a team that you're like, that has like a solid shot at making semis, and they fly under the radar a little bit, playing all those West Coast tournaments. I think there's some allegations of ratings inflation from those West Coast teams, all kind of playing themselves, the ones who don't travel east as much. But Santa Cruz has been putting in the work this year, and if they have a resounding victory over Georgia, who will have, as far as we know, Aiden Downey back for this game, then it's a little bit of okay, this is a for real thing. Like the other semis contenders have another one to worry about.
And how about UBC? They have to start their tournament playing the 2 seed in their pool, UNC. the 4X champions. Like I know UNC isn't as good as they were last year or in past
Do
seasons.
you know that?
I do know that.
They might have something else to say about that.
I know that, but
Okay.
I still think that's kind of a scary spot for UBC. They don't get a warm-up game, and like as the number 1 overall seed, they got to be a little annoyed that they have to kick off their tournament against a team that maybe is stronger than their results so far this season.
And they lost to the other top seed in their pool last year. Don't forget, right?
That's right.
So they're no strangers to this.
And jam-packed field pass schedule. Let's go to the next slide. Take a look at the later Friday stuff. We've got Carleton versus Oregon in the women's division. Absolute banger on the showcase field. Then we'll have Colorado, Cal Poly SLO. They meet for like the 25th straight year at College Nationals. Some super good field pass games in the mix as well. I'm really excited for that Tufts Washington women's game. I feel like Washington has looked super strong. I mean, they almost won the Northwest region, and Tufts hasn't played a great team in a while. Like they played decent teams at Stanford Invite, and that was at the beginning of March. I guess they got the test against Vermont at regionals, but this is a big spot. A Tufts team that is undefeated, but hasn't really had the strongest slate of opponents. Then that game is going to be a big test to kind of get their tournament going.
And some home field advantage for Washington there, with
there's going to be some sidelines for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we hear a lot from Pacific Northwest Seattle teams of like, oh, why can't they just put the tournament in the Pacific Northwest? Like there's no wind. It's perfectly sunny during the summers. Like this is where Frisbee is meant to be played. The only way to get true results is if we play them outside of Seattle. That's the only way the game can truly be evaluated. And now we're going to find out. So that's fun.
I will tell you from personal experience this weekend, like having it in the Pacific Northwest does draw a lot of people because it's not just like, oh, my parents came. It's like my parents came and my high school coach came and my middle school coach came and then their coaches came and then my friend I played with on this club team came. Like it's pretty packed. The Northwest is dense with Frisbee players.
All of the Frisbee people that I know in Seattle are going to be at this tournament at some point during the weekend. Yeah. Like I was talking to somebody from USCU. They're concerned that they will not have capacity for the stadium because there's going to be so many people coming, especially if, for instance, UBC women make the
oh my goodness, I didn't even consider that they could
Vancouver's only about an hour from here. So we're going to have a massive draw potentially, and people could drive up from Oregon.
What if you have UBC versus Oregon?
Yes. And that's very realistic that could happen.
Okay, so USAU needs to start. If there's capacity issues at the stadium, USAU needs to right now start selling floor level GA tickets that are $400, and it's called the Founders Package, and it allows you to be drunk on the sidelines like it's a real Frisbee game, even though it's being played in this tournament.
Normally, I would say that was a terrible idea, but Brown's not here, so the BMO's not here, so you can do this.
There's just people doing beer mile on the track around the fields with their $400 tickets.
Right. Right.
Look, it's going to be super fun. Okay, let's keep going. Let's take a look at some more of these games.
There's more.
Yeah, we got a lot of games. So we close out Friday on the showcase field with Carleton versus UNC in the men's division. I mean, look, 4-5, a UNC team that feels a little dangerously underseeded. Carleton, super. If they are hitting their hucks, they are so good. I mean, I'm very interested to see how well Cut can do, and that's obviously a huge test in pool play. Colorado and Vermont on field pass that round in the women's division. Michigan, UC Davis, some great games. Then on to Saturday morning, Oregon State taking on Texas on the showcase field men's division. Let's keep it going here. Later on Saturday, we have Washington taking on UCSB. Colorado taking on Stanford. That's all showcase games. All of these interesting matchups from pool play. I mean, that I'm circling that UC Santa Cruz Northeastern game, and for the exact same reasons you were talking about, Pat. Is this Santa Cruz team for real? That's going to be a big test because Northeastern looked quite good at regionals. I mean, they played within one of UMass. How good is that Northeastern team? They feel like it could be a sneaky quarters team that could knock on the door of a semi spot. Maybe I'm reading too much. Maybe that's my East Coast bias.
I mean, they
Well,
showed up at
we have to balance
regionals.
out the system bias for the California.
They showed up
teams.
huge. Yes. All right. Let's see the last slide here. Oregon Northeastern is the last pool play showcase game in the men's division, and I mean you got that Carleton Michigan women's game, Tufts UCSB, Colorado
Let's highlight
Cal.
that one real quick. That Tufts UCSB game, I think, because depending on how that Tufts Washington game goes, like that Pool C in the women's division could be interesting at the top, and UCSB, another one of these like a million really good West Coast teams that we're not. I don't know if you feel confident. I don't feel confident ranking them even after we saw regionals and got like a finish order. And I feel like UCSB is a team that could absolutely make some waves. And having this as like the last round on Saturday could be for the pool potentially. So circle that one on your schedule.
Definitely. And then we'll have pre-quarters round on Saturday afternoon at 5:30. We'll have 5 of the pre-quarters of the 8, but we're going to probably be aggressive sending extra cameras over to interesting games that are happening. We'll have all the quarterfinals. They play them over 2 rounds, so you won't miss a thing on Sunday morning. And then we'll have all of the semis on Sunday afternoon, back to back to back to back. Monday, national championship games will be on ESPNU, so you'll have to figure out how you're going to watch that. I have no idea how you get access to ESPNU these days. If it's me, I'm going to a sports bar because I'm not trying to figure out, how much egregious amount of money they want to take for you to watch the one game.
My parents just canceled their cable subscription, so I think I lost access to ESPNU as part of that.
No.
The overflow here maybe have to go. There may be local sports bars having to host events here because you can't get in.
Salt Lake Shrimp says Texas Utah is basically shrimp double wide round 3. Let's see. Somebody asked if this is posted somewhere. Not quite, but as soon as we get off the air, we're going to post it if somebody doesn't beat me to it. All right. Let's talk about the pools. Why don't we take a look at the women's division pools first and discuss the matchups here. We've got UBC, UNC, Cal Poly SLO, UCSD, Penn, Carleton, Oregon, Michigan, Santa Cruz, and Davis in Pool B. Tufts, Washington, UCSB, Utah, Georgia, Pool C. That's going to be so much fun, that pool. And then Colorado, Vermont, Stanford, UVic, and Cornell. Keith, where do you want to start here? Like, I think we were talking earlier. You feel like pools A and B are difficult to make decisions about how they're going to break down.
Those are definitely the pools that I feel like I have the most trouble with throughout. Even if you maybe feel good about the top, although you already pointed to some potential questions between UBC and UNC in Pool A. I think Oregon, we know that if they bring it at their best, they're good enough to beat Carleton. But like, what teams in those pools do you think can't get wins? Right? Like this UPenn team, yes, they had a tough regular season, but they came together at regionals. They still have our team were at nationals last year, and they have Grace Maroon. UCSD and SLO, they both have, I think, overperformed what people would have expected of them coming into this year. And UNC, like, we know what they're about. And then you move to Pool B, and again, a Michigan team that's already seen success against some of the teams in this pool that's having a banner year. UC Santa Cruz, they are for real. Do not sleep. UC Davis able to get out of a tough Southwest team or Southwest region. Like, I think those pools are just stacked top to bottom. And, maybe you're a little more excited about the 4-5 or the top 1-2 matchups in some of the other pools. I think the bottom of these pools is so strong that you could really see a lot of mix up in the ordering by the time we come around to pre-quarters.
Pat, what stands out to you when you take a look at these pools?
I'm really interested in the Vermont-Stanford I think it's first round on Saturday matchup in Pool D.
No history there.
Yeah, I mean, partially like the rematch from the crazy collapse game last year, or maybe not. I mean, I don't know if we're branding that a collapse game or a muffed centering pass game or whatever, but I know that Vermont is going to be thinking about it heading into it. And I think that what you're looking for during pool play of nationals, when you're other than like who's making the bracket, who's winning the pool, you're looking for like who's for real. And we talked about it a little bit with UC Santa Cruz, but it's like, I think whichever one of Vermont or Stanford wins that game, you're going to be saying like, oh, okay, this team is like very much for real. And, like whichever one loses that game, okay, now you're like maybe finishing third in the pool, a potential like tough crossover with either UNC or so that's the big one for me.
I mean, a classic 4-5-9 spot there in Pool D. Yeah, I feel like I want to see how Tufts handles top level teams, right? They get, I feel like in some ways they get unlucky because they catch the Southwest champ and then a Washington team that looks like it's peaking at the right time. UCSB's like regular season results held them back a little bit, but I think, if you extrapolated what they did at regionals, you would expect them to be maybe the 8 seed here. The only reason UNC, like Stanford, I think was the 8th ranked team, but UNC jumped them because they did it for regional balance. Otherwise, they would have had 3 Southwest teams in a pool together. Interesting to see UCSB seated behind Stanford, even though they won the region over them. But that's a nasty top 3 in Pool C. And even if all those teams comfortably beat Utah and Georgia, which is what I expect, the ordering there is pretty interesting to me. And Michigan getting those tests too, like as good of a season as they've had, I feel like a lot of people are going to expect them to comfortably lose to Oregon and Carleton. But that's a big spot because I think if you win one or both of those games, obviously getting the bye to quarters is massive. But even just winning and getting the 2 seed in that pool means that your pre-quarter is going to be that much easier. And it does feel like we're going to get competitive pre-quarters across the division this year. I don't expect to see big like 15-7 type blowouts. When you start to look at some of the matchups, where are you finding those? Like UNC Stanford, if it goes to chalk, Vermont slow, Oregon, UCSB, Washington, Michigan, if it goes chalk. Like those are all interesting games.
The Northwest teams, that Michigan or that Oregon Washington pairing, because in part, but Michigan, you mentioned that Michigan team. I do think that on just like a casual might glance and be like, yeah, Oregon's going to take care of Michigan. Like that seems pretty standard. Don't forget, Michigan beat Oregon at Northwest Challenge, and we don't really know Oregon. What's the opposite of peaking? I don't know what it is. Valleying, like it feels like they've been getting demolished in the series. So like, how healthy are they going to be? What's their mindset going to be? Because before the season, we thought they were going to be a title contender with how strong their recruiting has been, the talent on the roster. Can they bring it together at the end of the season? Because they're running out of chances to not bring their A game. Meanwhile, Washington's on the opposite trend. They had a pretty middling regular season. There wasn't, I don't think, a ton of reason to be excited about them. And then they come out of regionals. They almost beat UBC. They paced Oregon twice, once in conferences and once in regionals. And so now all of a sudden they're a 6 seed, and you're kind of brimming with hope about what this Washington team could be. So that Northwest duo, those are the prove-it teams to me to find out like really what the title contender class looks like. Are these teams that really can be a threat?
How deep is the championship list for you, Pat? How many of these teams can win a title?
It's great that the answer this year is more than one. Let's start with that. Like, let's be
100%.
Let's be really happy about that. I think it's pretty deep. Is it 9? Is that crazy? Like, does it go all the way to Stanford? Probably not, but they made finals.
I think if you're going to include Stanford, you have to include Santa Barbara.
Then is it 10?
I think I have to say 10
that seems
because
too deep.
I think the Southwest champ has to have the respect that they might go on a run, right?
Yeah. I think if you're being like Big Ten, it's like 10.
I feel like
you just fade the Southwest.
I feel like you're giving a lot of grace based on what Stanford did last year. Like you're extending like, oh, anybody can make a run. That is true. I wouldn't say that none of these teams could make a run, but I mean, to me, when you're really talking about like where's most of the championship equity is, it's in the top seeds. It's on the top line. Like,
but Washington.
What has Vermont proven? Well,
Vermont, okay, I agree with you there.
Washington had one close game against UBC in a game where they were both locked to make nationals. Like, yes, it was impressive. UBC was trying. I don't think UBC was phoning it in at all. But like, if that's your best, I always say if your best result is a close loss, like that's a red flag. I think that these are the list of teams that can make semis is really strong. But the teams I really consider title contenders, I can't get off the top line. And maybe that seems unfair to like Stanford and UNC, who've proven time and time again that if you doubt them come nationals, you're going to look like a fool. I'm willing to risk it again and doubt them because to me, those top 4 teams have by far proven the most. I think any of them could lose to a lower seeded team, but I'll be really surprised if the champion is not on the top line right now already.
I mean, spoiler alert, I guess my finalists are both from the top line. So like, I think we've seen enough upside from some of those teams further down, including Oregon, who's like scuffled a little bit, but maybe they pull it together at nationals. They're a little banged up from injuries. And I still feel like you have to give UNC some amount of credit, right? Now, maybe their chance to win is only 5%, but I don't think you can rule them out. Not with the legacy and the history and the coaching that this team has. So this is by far the most interesting like women's division coming into nationals that it feels like we've ever had in at least in the last 5 years. So pretty exciting. Do we want to make our picks now? I did it all.
I'm ready. Is Pat getting in on the picks?
Yeah,
I think you got to make your pick.
Are you prepared to do a deep roster of picks here? How deep are we going, Charlie?
I think we
is
should
it
probably
semis
just
or
do
all the way?
Semis. Let's just do semis. I mean, if you want to extrapolate on how you got to your semis, you can, but I don't think we need to. It'll take too long to do anything else. So Keith, you want to start?
Sure, I can start. All right, so I did the whole thing. So do we want it? We're just doing semis. You're saying
We're just doing semis, but
okay.
If you want to talk about how you ended up there, that's fine.
Yeah. So my semis, I feel really confident about the top 3 teams right now. I feel the best about UBC, Tufts, and Carleton. I feel like they're a step ahead. I think Colorado is the closest to playing into that group, but Colorado just has this kind of wavering mental game that you worry about. When they're up, they're way up. Like when they're up, they might be the best team. I mean, we saw what they did against UBC, but when they're not up, can they bring it back together? You like to think that with all the experience they have that they could, but that's a scary prospect. I had them facing Oregon in quarters, and I'm back and forth on who to expect to do better in that game. If it's not a healthy Oregon, I don't think they can survive the defensive pressure that Colorado brings to the table. But if Oregon's healthy, I worry about how Colorado performs in that spot. So I have UBC, Tufts, Carleton. I'm gonna take the leap of faith right now with Oregon.
Wow.
I can't believe I'm somehow going back to this well. It feels like it's never panned out, but like how can you not get this team to be in the right place once? They gotta get there, right?
I've got very similar picks. It won't be a huge surprise. Ultimately, I think UBC, I feel like they almost get a tougher draw through pool play than they will in the early bracket. I have them facing Michigan in quarters, Michigan winning a crossover. And so I have UBC getting through to semis. I have Washington beating Oregon in pre-quarters, and then I've got them against Colorado. I wanted to pick Washington, but I went back and I'm looking at the Northwest Challenge results, and Colorado beat them by 6, 11-5. I just don't think I can. I'm like that bullish on Washington that I'm willing to take them in that spot. So I have Colorado there. On the other side, I've got Tufts beating Vermont in quarters, Carleton getting through. So I have UBC versus Colorado in semis, Tufts and Carleton on the other side. Pat, how about you?
All right. It's bear with me on the bracket math here, but I think that North Carolina beats UBC in pool play, but does not make semis. But as a downstream result of that, we end up with a UBC Carleton quarterfinal, and UBC is going to find out that actually the team with the most Northwest home field advantage is Carleton, because everybody from Seattle went to Carleton. So I think we get UNC, we get Carleton, we get Washington, and we get Colorado going into semis.
Wait, you said
Oregon, not UNC.
BC,
sorry,
right? Okay.
Sorry, Oregon beating UNC in quarters after
Okay.
UNC beats
Okay.
UBC. So it's Oregon, Carleton, UW, Washington, and Colorado in semis.
Wow.
That's bold.
That's very bold.
But we are kind of picking from the same pool of teams right now. We're
Yeah.
in kind of the same vibe, except that you have the UBC out.
Keith, who you got in the finals? Who you have taking it down?
All right, so my semifinals were UBC and Oregon. I think I would be hard pressed to imagine Oregon somehow flipping around that matchup. So I have UBC going to the final, and then I have Tufts and Carleton. And oh my gosh, I have no idea. Like both those teams are so strong. I'm gonna take Tufts on the experience factor, and I think that maybe I trust their depth a little bit more. They're super well coached as well. So I've got UBC and Tufts in the final.
Who do you have winning it all?
I think they finally pulled off. We've seen so many UBC teams get it to the big game and have it come apart in some inexplicable way where you're like, wow, all their players who are incredibly skilled and like Canadian national team players are terrific at. Mika Kurahashi is the best player in the division right now. They're deep, they're experienced, they're talented. I think UBC's got all the pieces. So I'm gonna roll with them and put some faith in UBC to get, I think, the second title in team history.
After all these years, I mean, they've been so good for so long, but they've come up short in the big spots, Keith. And I got to say, I've got them over Colorado in semis. I've got Tufts taking down Carleton in what might be a universe game. And I think normally a team coming into nationals undefeated, I'm a little bit worried about. They haven't experienced the adversity. Tufts in particular, right, hasn't necessarily played the toughest schedule. That could work against them. But they have played good teams. They have won those games. They've won most of them convincingly. And I just think that this Tufts team won't have the we're so good, we're undefeated, no one can touch us attitude. In fact, they somehow got seated behind Carleton despite beating Carleton heads up. I don't really understand that, but it's a chip on the shoulder for a team that hasn't lost a game this season. I think they go in and they put together a storybook run and finish this season undefeated and win a national championship.
Wow.
Pat?
That would be cool. I don't think it's going to happen,
That would be cool.
But it would be cool. So in the first semi, I think Colorado crushes Oregon. Like Oregon gets the big win. Like, oh, they put it together. Like they have a great quarterfinal. They come in with a lot of energy. Like this is going to be a sick game. And then Colorado just wins 15-9.
Classic story.
Yeah. But I then think we get an awesome Carleton versus Washington semifinal. I think a rematch of the 2021 semi, right? The Abby Echo game. I think that was
that was the Abby Echo game.
Yeah. And I think Carleton squeaks that one out. And then I think Carleton, undefeated Northwest Challenge, keeping the undefeated streak in the Northwest alive, pulls it home, takes the title back, and beats Colorado in the final.
Okay, I gotta say, we're all gonna be rooting against Carleton for like 5 or 6 years, like our Carleton overlords. So like, let's not start early. We can't have them winning now because it's gonna be so much worse. It's going to get worse, y'all. It's gonna get darker before it gets brighter. So. That Carleton team, like this team is really good. I think they have the pieces to win a title. I think I've made that clear, but man, it's going to be a scary. Them winning could be the start of a dynasty.
Yeah, we could have a new, multi-year run at the top of the women's division is definitely possible. We'll see. I mean, I think what's so interesting, right? We all end up with different champions. When's the last time that happened? In a preseason, pre-nationals picks. I mean, we often end up with the same team. We picked UNC for years coming into this tournament.
We knew that this is kind of the narrative coming into the season. It's like it feels like we're in an unprecedentedly open field.
Yep. All right, let's turn our attention over to the men's division. Let's take a look at the pools. We've got UMass, the number 1 overall seed. They'll be playing Oregon State, Texas, Vermont, and Utah. In Pool B, we've got Oregon, Santa Cruz, Northeastern, Georgia, Western Washington. Pool C is Colorado, SLO, Cal, UBC, and Michigan. And D is Carleton, UNC, WashU, Penn State, and Ottawa. Pat, I'll throw it to you. which of these pools stands out the most, and what matchups are you really circling?
Well, let me start by not answering that question. Quick. I know there's been. I want to address Pool A. I want to address UMass as the 1 seed, which I know there's been some talk about UMass not deserving a 1 seed because they haven't won any tournaments this year. They
There has
lost in
been
the
some
finals.
talk. I have. We don't have to pretend that it was just somewhere out in the universe. I think it's a fraudulent 1 seed. Go ahead.
Okay, but don't you also think that we should disregard or reduce the impact of consolation games, and that we want to reward teams for how they've performed, like in meaningful non-consolation games during the regular
let me
season?
answer that for Charlie. Only when it supports his current narrative.
Whatever, hater.
Because UMass has literally not played a single consolation game all year. They've made the final of every tournament that they've been in. Right. Every single one of their games has been like full points worth. And they've, so it's not like, oh, Oregon, you crushed UNC in a semi where UNC played all of their rookies. Like, whatever. I think UMass is a absolutely justified, like on aggregate over the course of the regular season. They've been most consistent. They've shown really high highs. They've not really shown low lows, like they have been in those games in all the finals. They never got crushed in any of them. So I think it's totally justified that they're the 1 seed, and I think that they're going to clean up that Pool A.
Look, we're splitting hairs with these top 5 seeds. It was really difficult to compare them against one another because none of them had a clear best resume. Like, there's nothing wrong necessarily with any of them being the top seed. It just depends on kind of like how you're choosing to evaluate things. But, I think the thing is that UMass, because they never had to play those consolation games, never were in the spot where they're emptying the bench to get minutes and like losing a game to Oregon 15-9 or whatever UNC lost. And so it's like, it doesn't matter that much in those third place games. And I do think we should deprioritize them. But that's why I feel like you want to reward teams that won. But at the end of the day, we can move past it. The seeding is the seeding. These teams are all going to end up facing each other and have difficult games at some point during the tournament. So I'll throw it back to you now. What are you looking for in the other pools? I mean, I also agree. I think it's pretty straightforward. Pool A for UMass. Who do you think is going to have a tough time from the top of their pool?
I hate to say it, but I'm feeling kind of chalky, at least in terms of the top, 6-7 teams. I think there's going to be some really fun, middle to end of the day Saturday, like, oh man, Utah beat Vermont and now have a chance of making the bracket. Like, but I think I think the tournament's going to unfold kind of linearly on the men's side, where it really is going to be like scrappy battles to make pre-quarters, and then scrappy pre-quarters, and then all the quarters are kind of a little, I hate to say it, but predictable, because I really do think that there's just a clear top 6 this year. Maybe UCSC gets in there, Santa Cruz at 7. But beyond that, it's hard for me to see any of the teams below seriously threatening the top teams. Maybe Northeastern, as you pointed out, they had a good showing at Northeast Regionals. Georgia, like Aiden Downey, maybe he's just been kind of like waiting all year and goes nuclear and propels Georgia into quarters. But it's tough for me to see the big upset coming.
Keith, we were talking about how it feels like there is a giant gulf between the top 6 and everybody else.
On paper, I think that's true. There's a team to me, though, that you're missing who I think can bridge the gap. The team that can play up, but they also can play down. And that's everyone's favorite shooters, Oregon State. This is your spin the wheel team. Like, if we come out and we go 8 for 12 on deep looks, like, you're cooked. But we also could come out and turn it over on our own goal line 4 times in a row or whatever. Like, they are the high flying circus team, and I also think they kind of play like no Fs. So I don't think they're not scared of anybody. They're not afraid to lose. Like, I think that they're a scary team. They're not the kind of team I want to run into the bracket, run into early in the bracket, especially if they're like coming off a pre-quarter win. they're that team that comes out the pre-quarter win and is like all amped up. And if you let them start in the first 5 points, you let them come out and get all fired up again, then you could be in trouble. If you come out and you put the clamps on that, I don't know if they're going to have a lot of resilience there, but they could be a scary team. Spoiler alert. Maybe
who have they even lost to besides Oregon? They have a loss. They went to Smoky Mountain. They lost to Carleton by 2, Carolina by 4, and then Oregon. I mean, Oregon has just dominated them. But
yeah, they can't beat Ego. I'm pretty confident.
I kind of see them crushing Texas, Vermont, and Utah.
I feel like they lost to UCLA, right?
They
did lose to UCLA. Yes, that was a weird one.
I'm not confident that they're capable of crushing 3 teams in 3 games. Like that's just beyond the pale. I feel pretty confident that they can't put together 6 great halves. Like that's just not happening. But they can go out. They will almost certainly crush one of those teams.
I'm excited to see that team play. At UMass, Oregon.
Yeah, them playing Vermont. That's going to be the real shooters battle.
Schmeat game.
Oh my gosh.
Schmeat game.
How are you going to say that when the other teams in their pool have Xavier, Fusat, and those Utah guys? Like, that's going to be a crazy pool. Pool A is the pool for sickos, I'm pretty sure.
Salt Lake Shrimp in the chat says Will Selfridge legacy game versus UMass.
Wait, to put on him. Isn't he a U24 snub?
Yes.
So the Fusat, Will Selfridge, who's the true snub of the? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That game, Texas Utah. Put it on the calendar. Let's see, 3-5. They're 4th round on day 1. That's going to be fun. Snub battle. All right. Do we want to get into picks? I think we should get into picks. Pat, why don't you go first? Give us your semis.
Okay.
You're going chalk.
I'm good. Well, I'm at least chalk into quarters. And that's where it starts to get interesting. But I do think it's the quarters matchups are going to be super important. Because I think it's likely going to be 2 quarters where it's wow, these are both semis teams, and then a couple quarters where you're probably, how did this team get here? But I think I'm going to go with UMass. We're going with Oregon. We're going Colorado. And we're going UNC.
I have the exact
same.
So
pretty
picks.
Chalky. So basically pretty chalky. I just don't.
The exact same.
I want to take Slow. I think Slow's top 3 is incredible. I think there's a chance that they could. I think Slow loses to Colorado in pool play and then loses against UNC in quarters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have.
Yeah.
Keith?
All right. Well, I'll bring the spice. I'll bring the spice for you guys. So my pools are not that strange, except I have Slow. So give me Slow over Colorado on Universe.
I thought about it.
I think that's the right thing to do in pool play. I also have UNC over Carleton. So that throws the pools off a little bit. I'll tell you, the one team that I wish I could find a spot for is Western Washington. I really like that team, but their pool's pretty tough. I think Santa Cruz is legit enough to make it there. They're being a little floated on their seed by beating Slow when Slow didn't have their U24 guys at Stanford Invite. So they're a little overseeded, I think, but they are pretty good. So all that said, I have Carleton over Vermont in pre-quarters and Oregon State over Wash U. And I say that because then I have Oregon State facing off against UNC in quarters. And I'm taking the Oregon State upset. They go out and get revenge on UNC for their Oregon brethren after last year's quarterfinals. And this is exactly the kind of team that I feel could unseat UNC. The shooters team, forget the system team. UNC's has all these disciplined sets or whatever, and they just go up against a bunch of athletes and Frisbee geeks and find themselves a little overwhelmed. I also think this UNC team has been shaky. I know. I am as big a Van Damme fan as you're going to find. I have no qualms with talking about him, but I think the next part of the top end of this roster has not played at the level that I expected. Yes, they went out and did it without Dameron. It was very impressive that specific tournament, but I don't know, man. This is still a team that lost to Georgia Tech earlier this year that couldn't beat Colorado with Dameron there. there's something about this UNC team that doesn't have the same vibes to me as another team, as other times that we've seen them. I will say, I think they're going to be pretty hyped up. It's pretty rare for them to get to come in and be like, oh, nobody thinks we could do it, and like it's actually true. Like they actually are, a team maybe people are doubting, but so they may get an extra chip on their shoulder. But in this Oregon State team, they feel like the team that can upset a system team like UNC. So I am making a bold call. We're going to get a surprise somewhere. I feel good about it, so this is the one I'm going to take. I'm taking Oregon State to semis. Other than that, I have UMass and Colorado, just like y'all, and I also have Carleton reaching the semifinals after they get through pool play, beating SLO. I flipped that at the last moment. I do like SLO, but I worry a little bit about their depth as they get further into the tournament, and I don't worry about that with this Carleton team. I think Carleton can run pretty deep. They're getting extra reinforcements back, so some of the players who haven't been able to play this season, like Tage Murthy, I think they're going to be a deep, strong team, and they have the top end with Declan Miller and Daniel Chen. So I like Carleton's ability to finally get over the hump and get back to semis.
I have to throw a little cold water on you, Keith.
So
I think that you have Oregon State finishing second in Pool A.
What do you?
Well, I'm concerned that that it's not possible to get the Oregon State UNC quarterfinal that you're talking about.
Did I misalign my?
I think maybe you did. Because if you have UNC winning their pool and you have Oregon State finishing second in Pool A, then that's likely to mean that Oregon State's going to play Oregon in the winner Pool B.
Oh, that's
they win their three-quarter, and that's not good. You don't want to see that if you're an Oregon State.
Oh no,
it's tough to beat a team 12 times in one season. We always say that it's tough to beat a team 12 times in one season.
Bring up the machine tweet, right? Well, fortunately, it's really easy to just delete the word state, right? Can I just do that?
But who knows? I mean, some crazy bracket math could happen where they knock out UNC in three quarters.
Anything is possible. Depending on
anything's possible except for the second seed in Pool A play against the top seed in Pool D.
That is not possible.
That's not possible. So, I guess I have to. You are pouring some pretty cold water. I mean, it's in fact frigid, but keeps me warm at night. Here's
how it happens. Keith, I got the math for you. I got the bracket math for you.
Okay.
Oregon State, being super volatile, drops a game in pool play to Texas.
They finished third instead.
Finished third. UNC finishes second in their pool. They beat UNC in pre-quarters, as you predicted, and then they would play the Pool B winner, and then they beat Oregon and take that Pool B spot.
I will not be big enough to beat Oregon. That is a way for Oregon to get in. And the narrative you painted before that of Oregon State somehow finishing third in their pool and then going in and winning pre-quarters and being electric in quarters, that all seems possible to me. But I don't know, man. They're little brother, big brother to Oregon right now. It's in the head. They're rent free.
I have a little spice, but mostly coming before semis. I have Northeastern finishing second in Pool B. Finishing ahead of Santa Cruz. I have Utah making a run to the third spot in Pool A. And then, mostly kind of chalky from there. I mean, I'm taking Oregon State, Carleton, SLO, and Northeastern to win their three-quarters. And then, unfortunately for some of those teams, they just run into the team that they're not going to beat. Northeastern plays UMass. Sorry. Oregon State plays Oregon. Sorry. And SLO comes up against UNC, and it's the UNC revenge game, and they get the win. So I have UMass UNC on the top of the bracket, Colorado and Oregon on the bottom of the bracket. I'll just keep rolling, and then we can talk about our finals and picks. I don't know what to do with this UMass UNC game. I have UNC written down, but I'm changing my mind in real time, and I'm taking UMass. I just feel like UMass is a little bit more in the tank than UNC this year. On the other side, I'm going to take Colorado over Oregon. Oregon has just been – I feel like they've been trending in the wrong direction, and Colorado's been trending in the right direction. So I've got UMass versus Colorado in the finals, and heavy dose of Tobias Brooks. Colorado's winning the tournament this year, folks. Mama Bird back on top.
Well, Charlie, you and I are aligned. And I always try to be skeptical of the results of the last major regular season tournament.
Sure.
Just because these two teams were good at Easterns, we think that they're the best two teams. But just looking at the way everything shakes out, I think that UMass beats UNC in one semi, and then I think Colorado is going to emerge from this weekend as sort of the like definitive best team. They're so deep, they're huge, just like physically, like they are filled a roster full of like large semi-adult men who all can throw. They have Tobias Brooks, who, whether you think he's the best player, the second, third best player in the country, is clearly a guy fit to be the best player on a national championship team. And they have a good coaching staff. Like I think they've just been getting better all year. They're going to be able to rely on some of the D-line depth they've been building out. Elliot Hawkins kind of coming under the radar as maybe a Fody. And we could be having a tough conversation about freshman of the year at the end of the tournament if Colorado wins and Hawkins is like the best player on their D-line. So yeah, I'm taking Colorado as well.
Keith?
Well, I'm realigning my matchups to make sure that I have the right quarters matchups, because I now have to change things around because now I've ended up having to pick between Colorado and UNC, because I think my quarters at this point are Oregon State, where I have Oregon over Oregon State, I have Carleton over SLO, and then I have UMass over Cal. So I have Colorado against UNC, I believe. So you tell me, am I wrong? That's where the pool winner of D, which I have to be UNC, faces off against the two team from Pool C, which will be Colorado. Right?
If you're calling,
if I'm calling SLO over Colorado,
to lose,
okay. So I've got Colorado versus UNC again.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh my gosh. I think, I don't know, the way Colorado played in that semifinal, in that final against UNC didn't feel the most sustainable to me. But Tobias Brooks is obviously really good. Elliot Hawkins, I love the idea of this guy who we were talking about at the beginning of the year, turning around and winning the roadie, and certainly he looked like it in that game. But that's a tough matchup. I think I would take UNC to win that game over Colorado. I think that's a much better matchup for UNC than I know. It sounds crazy after I called Oregon State to be a UNC, but that was more of a styles issue. I don't think that Colorado is necessarily going to give them the same problem. So I guess that gives me Carleton, Oregon, UMass, UNC. So I also will take UMass over UNC. And then I've got Carleton and Oregon. Have they played each other this year at SMI?
Cut in Oregon? I think so. I think
Oregon won 15-12 at
Yeah.
Easterns, and Carleton won 15-12 at SMI. So yeah, that's tough to get the difference between. I think I would take Oregon in that matchup, based on the matchup. So I'm changing my picks as we do this, partially because I made my mistake on the train on the way over here. So now I've got UMass and Oregon in the final, and that definitely feels like a matchup advantage for UMass. So I've got UMass winning this thing too.
All right. Well, there we go. So a couple of picks for Colorado, a pick for UMass. Maybe surprising that all of us are fading UNC. Are we going to get burned? Are they going to just get right back on the ship? I mean, they have the best player in the division right now, do they not? Are we just – I feel like sometimes UNC doesn't bring it during the regular season that much, and they always seem to be good at nationals.
Yeah, I mean, I have them making semis, so no disrespect to UNC. I know just making semifinals has become, like a grievous failure for them. I do think that they have had some troubles with their O-line this year. Their D-line is awesome. They can go get the disc. They have dudes who can move it on the turn. They're deep. Their O has it's and this is something we noticed at Easterns a little bit, is that they are not just running the dark side, front of the stack, grinder, bread and butter stuff that they could double down and rely on over the past few years when the going got tough. They're expanding the field a little bit more, and aesthetically nicer to watch. Like Josh Singleton has been one of the most watchable players in the division this year, and it's awesome. But they've had some trouble clicking a little bit. Dameron's been in and out of the lineup. He's been back in, so maybe we'll see him a little more integrated. But I just, it's a little hard for me to get out of my mind some of the stuff we saw from them at Easterns, where it was taking them 4 or 5 possessions to put in holds against Cal. It didn't look like their O was like truly clicking at an elite level. So maybe we'll see it for the first time at Nationals, but we've seen other teams get to that already.
I think that this version of UNC doesn't have the same offensive talent as in past years, where their O-line was just so reliable. And when you have Rutt and Dameron as your 1-2, and then Singleton's the 3, it's a lot different than Singleton and Dameron as the 1-2. And then you're asking guys who I think would probably be best served by being D-line quarterbacks like Pignoni and Grayson Trowbridge to suddenly be the 3, or Seth Freed or Eli Freed. Those are good players, but I don't know if being your third best offensive player is really what any of those guys were meant to do. So to me, that's where the UNC team is falling a little bit flat.
I think you named the guy. It's Pignoni, because he's the one who will need to step up and be the rock O-line handler for them. Because Dameron's best downfield, Singleton is best making big plays. Pignoni's got to be the one who keeps the ball bouncing. And I will say this, he got hurt in their game against Colorado, where they lost in the semis at Easterns and came out. And their offense took a dip once he left the game. So if you're looking to make the UNC case, you can say with Pignoni, they were up at half. They were, looking like they were going to beat Colorado. And that if he comes back and is good and is that O-line rock at Nationals, then their O is going to be okay.
One thing to note, knock on wood, weather forecast looks pretty promising. I think we could have track meaty conditions. The fields are pretty firm, even with the rain that we've had this week.
They hold up well. Yeah,
they hold up fine, and they're actually they're not sloppy muddy. They're pretty stiff, and there's not tons of wind here. We don't have much wind in the forecast. We don't have much rain in the forecast. Temperatures are going to be upper 60s, low 70s highs. I feel like teams that like to shoot the ball are going to have a chance to really run the kind of offense that they want to run. This is not going to be slog fest ultimate. And perhaps that, opens the door for some teams. I think what it does for me is like those teams that love to shoot, they have that puncher's chance against the top programs that they wouldn't if it was a windy, rainy, cruddy D-line focused game. Like we could see high hold rates across the tournament. It's going to be pretty interesting. Josh Ackley points out in the chat, same field site as 2004 college nationals, 21 years later, and Colorado Mama Bird won in 2004. I believe with Ackley on the team.
It makes sense why he remembers that fact.
All right. So what's left to do today? I'm excited because let's just zoom out really quick. The same thing is true as in the women's division, where we have this group of teams, all of whom are credible championship winners. There is not a one or two obvious dominant teams that is, that we know there's going to be in finals. Like there's definitely some uncertainty, even if it feels like there's not much of a chance for the field to make some kind of crazy run. Those top 6 teams at a minimum all feel like they might win.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a well-balanced tournament in that it's going to be very exciting. Like if you look at those sort of 3-4 seeds that we don't really think have a great shot at semis, they're all watchable. Like they're all playing pretty high-level stuff compared to 10 years ago, where you'd have bottoms nationals teams that had 2 guys who could do a lot, and then the rest of the teams kind of eh. So I think we're going to get good, exciting games out of Texas, Utah. See what Northeastern can do. Penn State has some nice pieces, and the fight for making the bracket is going to be fun. The fight for making quarters is going to be fun, and then oh my God, look at these Titans slugging it out, trying to make semis, trying to make finals. So I think it's a very well set up field. And as you point out, it's literally impossible for there to be a repeat champion, which is nice, unless we get some late breaking last minute disqualification of a couple New England teams.
I think to me, the strength of the field itself is not necessarily going to open us up to new title contenders. It's going to pull somebody away. Somebody's going to step on the landmine and lose a game in pool play or in pre-quarters or whatever, or even get taken to universe and suddenly be a kind of a doormat in their next game. I think we're going to find that these middle tier teams are good enough to play up and beat some of the elite tier teams in both the men's and women's division. And that's where we're going to get the surprises from. It's not, when we get to the finals, we have some Cinderella team. It's, guess who didn't make semis? Guess who got knocked out early, a la UMass last year.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me, Keith. I want to go to our mailbag question of the week, and Pat, you can stick around and give your thoughts on this one. We're gonna change gears. We got so much college ultimate to talk the rest of this week, and we're going to talk about our hashtag the game picks in our subscriber bonus segment immediately following this podcast live in our Discord. I should note, by the way, for those who are tuning in for the D1 preview show and just kind of want to know how to follow along with everything this weekend, I think the best solution is just get an all-access subscription. You're going to get all the games. You're going to get all of the Discord and live updates from reporters in the fields, live podcasts, the full Field Pass shows, Inside Out with Pat, the whole deal. It's a simple option. And if you just want to watch the games, you can also get an event pack. But the all-access subscription is a little bit cheaper, and you get more stuff. So, I think a no-brainer. So we'll do our sub bonus in just a moment. But mailbag question of the week: in other sports like basketball, the hoop is lower and the ball is smaller. In soccer, fields are shorter. In baseball, they don't have kids really pitching until maybe third or fourth grade. What game adjustment should be made for ultimate at the elementary school levels? The future college athletes playing at the college championships. How should we adjust the game? Keith, your thoughts?
This is actually a pretty tricky question because there's part of me that's thinks that ultimate, as it's traditionally structured, is non-functional at the elementary level. Maybe Seattle could prove me wrong, but you have to have the basic facility to complete 1 to 2 passes, and that could be a lot to ask of really young kids. Otherwise, the game is literally not. It doesn't exist at all. So I don't know if there's a way to make it. Is it totally insane to be you get 3 turnovers per possession or something like that? I mean, I think you definitely want to use smaller discs like the J-Star. It's really hard for small hands to do anything with a full-size Ultra Star. Just not. It doesn't make sense. So the floppier disc, also for the kids hitting each other, that's definitely the right direction. Small field, more frequent, might give more opportunities for scoring, and smaller sides. I think you don't want to be playing sevens by any means. There's just
no chance.
You need kids to be involved in the action, and you also want to clear some space out of the field because the kids are not going to be good at creating any space. But I don't know how to handle the turnover, getting to that basic functional level to be able to complete a couple passes in order to make the game flow and be fun. Because how else are you even going to get kids into it if they're just dropping it and then turning over and playing defense every time? Anybody got any ideas here?
I actually talked to somebody, and I forgive me, I don't remember who it was. This was maybe a few months ago, maybe a couple of years ago. Somebody said that they have the really young kids play Ultimate with a ball. They don't use a disc. They use a ball. And so that way, it's just a little bit easier to kind of throw a ball around. You can do 1 hand, 2 hands, chest pass type thing. And you still have to stop. You have to set a pivot foot. You have to catch it in the end zone to score. But it's not as, sort of challenging a motor skill as throwing a disc. Certainly, we have to play with J-Stars until kids are probably 13 or 14. I don't understand why everybody's trying to make middle school kids play full field sevens. It's not necessary. I think we should basically play mini. It should be 3s or 4s, and you slowly scale up as kids get a little bit older. And maybe even make some, no zone allowed. You allow 1 disc to hit the ground before it becomes a turn. You have to turn it over twice for the other team to take possession, for instance. Just to make the game. You want the kids to learn how to play in the flow of the game and not feel like they have to have this really demanding task. But I mean, if you watch kids basketball at that age, They can't make a basket. They're terrible. So some of it is just like they stink, and that's okay.
The other big reason to go with small side is you just need fewer kids.
Yeah,
Like, why make teams need
and you want kids to get involved
15,
in the
20
action.
kids to have a team? Like, let them have 8 kids and be able to play threes.
If you play sevens, the 2 or 3 strongest players are going to touch the disc
Absolutely.
constantly, and the other kids are going to stand around not knowing what they're doing. It's not a way for anybody to learn how to play. What do you think, Pat?
The small hands point that Keith identified is really important. So you want to make sure you don't have child-safe ibuprofen bottles, because they're not going to be able to open them with their tiny child hands for when they have to take 4 ibuprofen to continue playing. You probably want like tiny, adorable little nips of Celsius, because I think it would be irresponsible to have 200 milligrams of caffeine going into a child at that age. I think the other thing to consider is that ibuprofen gummies. Yeah. I remember that, growing up, we did this a lot in gym. We do like punt, pass, and kick for football, where it was more about like, okay, we're not playing 11 on 11 football or whatever, but you're going to like make a competition out of the skills. So I think stuff like that can be helpful, because kids don't necessarily need to play Ultimate to develop skills with the disc, to have fun competing. So maybe it's some combination of like, yeah, you play with the ball, so it's easier to throw and get the field sense. And then also part of it is, who can throw the furthest, who can like throw most accurately into stuff. You could do some sort of like blob, the game where it's like one person throws it and everyone's standing there and has to jump up and catch it. And if you move and don't catch the disc, then you're out. Stuff like that, like really like make skill building competitive and fun and almost a sport of its own, and then have them play other sports mostly. And then like they'll know how to throw a disc and they'll know how to move around the field, and then they can play Frisbee when they're 14 and have been cut from varsity basketball.
It's an interesting idea about, like throwing accurately. Like, can you think of is there any structure where you could like maybe have like a target and you had to throw the disc to the target in a certain number of throws, and then you had to do the next target? Maybe you could put like some chains on the target or something, so it was really obvious when.
And like you're keeping score.
You could have like.
Yes.
You could have like 18 different obstacles to go through.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a way for us to create a mini game. I will say we used to, when I helped out with like a
lipfuls of chew. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
We used to do this game called Zombies, where you'd have like 10 people or 12 people who were on defense, but they couldn't run, and then like 3 or 4 people on offense, and so they were trying to score on an ultimate field, but they were just constantly being like surrounded by a bunch of people walking like with their arms out. And the kids had a lot of fun with that, and it was a good way for them to like continue practicing to throw the disc.
Well, it's I think it'll be a good problem for us to have when we're worried about how to, make sure that all of the elementary school kids who want to play Ultimate are getting involved optimally. Let's work towards that goal. Pat, we'll see you very soon, buddy.
Yeah, can't wait. See everybody soon on Inside Out.
All
Subscribe.
Right. Subscribe.
Wait, is Pat? Is he coming on the sub bonus with us to do this? To do his game?
Yeah, you want to make your hashtag the game picks, or you got to get back to work?
Yeah, I can make the picks.
All right, we'll make it quick. So join us in the Discord in just a moment. Now's the time to buy your subscription and come listen to the pod. You get access to all the past bonus podcasts as well. And honestly, if you want to talk about Frisbee on the internet, the Ulti-World Discord is now where that happens. It doesn't really happen anywhere else. So RIP Twitter, RIP Reddit. We'll see you in the Discord. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Nationals coverage starts 8:30 a.m. Pacific time on Friday morning. Field Pass, showcase games all weekend long. We've got you covered for all the action from Washington. For Pat Stegemiller, Keith Raynor, brand new trophy cabinet, Ulti-World trophy cabinet, national champ over here. I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we will talk to you live from the D1 College Championships this week in Washington. See you there.
TGS Fish, baby. Let's go.
Knicks to the finals, man.
Metro East represent. Knicks.